Welcome back to the Gridiron Drive, the NFL draft in the books. We gave it a couple days to breathe so we could collect our thoughts, get back on the feed here with some reactions to the full 2025 NFL draft. I am Anthony Correnti, joined as always by my co-host Peter Traina. Pete, how we feeling? We got draft news to finally react to. It's all done, all in the books. Time to overreact.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of NFL draft, I'm feeling great, but right now my allergies are absolutely killing me right now. It's been a rough couple days. It's been a rough couple days for Mr. Trainer here, but everything else is good. Really like this draft, and I'm ready to dig right in.
Yeah, it is that time of year where you walk outside and immediately sneeze attack. Like Jeez, it is, man. The pollen is something.
And I sneeze like I never sneeze like once or twice. I sneeze like 5 times always. Like it's awful.
Oh yeah, it's a barrage. All right, well, sneezing aside, if you want to react to the NFL draft, you're in the perfect spot. And just because the draft is over doesn't mean we're letting up on the content. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit the button. Drop a comment down below. Let us know if you loved your team's draft, hated your team's draft, somewhere in between. We want to hear all of it. And if you're listening on whichever podcast, audio podcast provider is your favorite, go ahead and make sure you're either subscribed or following the podcast because just because the draft's in the books, we'll have plenty more to keep getting into as summer approaches, and training camps will be here before we know it. So make sure you've got it locked in here, and let's dive right in. Talk about some sort of big picture draft takeaways from the 2025 NFL draft. What were your general impressions from this draft class? Any surprises? Was it fairly chalky? How you feeling?
Well, the beginning was definitely pretty chalky, but honestly, there weren't too many like egregious drafts this year. It really felt like a year where most teams came in with a clear plan and they stuck to it. And we didn't see a lot of crazy reaches. The Falcons had that one trade that looked really bad after the Giants trade, but again, I still like understand that process of overcorrecting. But other than that, man, there was a couple teams where I didn't like love their drafts, but nobody had like a terrible draft,
Yeah, I tend to agree. Like it felt like everybody was almost on their best behavior for the most part. Nobody did anything absolutely ludicrous in round one, or really for in the most part in the first 2 days. Like it felt hard to really get like upset or overreact about anything. I think we saw, the tackles come off the board pretty fast and furious in round one. That was kind of what we expected. The D-line class was still deep and, like we expected, good players fell kind of far just because of the depth of the class. And
right.
Yeah, I don't think that, I think you put it well. I don't think there was anything like super egregious that happened that stood out like, oh my God, I can't believe that team did that in that way.
What do you think about the Browns trading out of 2, giving up the one of 2 blue chip prospects in this draft? And I know they're not competing for a championship, but like, how do you feel about that trade for them?
I think with getting the one next year, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
It really felt like they would take Hunter. Obviously the Jags coveted Hunter in a way that there was some smoke early that day on Thursday that the Jags might do something crazy, that they were trying to get up to 2. I think people might have thought initially they wanted to try and ensure Genty, and then the Travis Hunter thing happens. I love Travis Hunter. He's great. And same with Abdul Carter. But I still think Mason Graham's a really good player and like pretty damn close to like a blue chip caliber player if he's not that. So for a team that in all likelihood, despite taking a few quarterbacks and having a few quarterbacks on the roster, probably doesn't have its like franchise quarterback on the roster right now. I don't hate having that extra first next year because, the Jags were picking 5th. What if the Jags underperform again? Like, I know we're not really talking about that because new regime and, positivity and Liam Cohen and sure, I totally get all that, but still a first-time head coach. I think it's far from set in stone that they're going to be a great team next year.
Correct.
So to have the extra capital to net that extra first-round pick next year, I do kind of like it for the Browns. It's tough to pass up on Travis Hunter, especially when by all accounts it seems like they loved Travis Hunter. But I would have to guess that getting that extra first next year probably, swayed them
Again, it goes back
to
to
only go back, whatever, 3 spots or whatever
Right.
it was.
It goes back to what we said earlier. It's like the process. I can respect that process, and everybody always talks about that. Oh, you're a bad team. Trade back, get some assets. So yeah, I like that. Do you wanna pivot now?
Yeah, let's we got to talk what everybody's talked about. Shedeur Sanders. He had quite the draft day slide. Falls out of round 1, out of round 2, out of round 3. He falls all the way to day 3 of the NFL draft. What do you think about Shedeur's slide out of the first couple of days of the draft? I think we were lower than some folks on Shedeur going in. We had said before that we didn't really view Shedeur like this top end of round 1 talent, that he was best viewed as like a fringe day 1, day 2 type guy. So what do you think about Shedeur falling out as far as he did in the NFL draft?
Yeah, it was the reports coming out about his interviews and like pre-draft meetings being underwhelming, allegedly, really seemed to tank his stock for the really quarterback needy teams. And then once he didn't go day 2, it felt like teams, kind of categorized him into the backup quarterback. And when you're a backup quarterback with and this isn't a bad thing, with as big of a personality as he has, that's a tough situation to put your starter in. And that, I know that kind of sounds soft, but like, it's just not an ideal situation, I guess, for some teams. But the Browns, they stopped the slide. They thought it was too much. And yeah, I mean, he definitely shouldn't have made it to the 5th round, but it's really hard to say, without being in those rooms and hearing how those meetings went, but it sounded pretty bad.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. If nobody valued him as a round 1 guy or, a day 2 type guy or as a potential starter, it's tough to take that shot any earlier. And I don't think there's any, collusion or anything crazy like that. Like has been brought up some places. I just think it's a quarterback who, like we said before, if he had a different name, you were probably never talking about this quarterback the way that some folks were. He's got a good but not great arm. He doesn't have like elite athleticism. He holds the ball too long and takes some sacks that he shouldn't. There's questions to his game in a league that kind of typically covets guys with at least one sort of outlandish or alien type trait that they can hang their hat on, whether it's arm strength, athleticism, whatever. So it's a fair point that, if you do view this guy as a backup type, he went where those guys go.
Yeah.
And it's tough to, right, wrong, or otherwise, like the backup quarterback's got to kind of blend into the shadows, man. Like, you got to play your part and, do what you can at practice. But yeah, again, it's nothing negative about Shedeur the person, but we'll see how it all works out there. That they drafted a quarterback ahead of him.
Yeah.
I'm still not totally convinced that it wasn't totally like an ownership play.
Sure seems like
the video. Yeah, the video of Andrew Berry and Stefanski when the pick comes in is like pretty telling. Like they don't look super stoked about making that pick. And hey, they're selling jerseys, right? Like they are selling jerseys right now. But I wonder how much ownership got involved there in just like hey, we have to take Shedeur at this point. And if that's the case, like I don't know, feels like it could get a little messy. But we'll see. Like, look, a couple rounds earlier, they took Dylan Gabriel, right? I forget if that was round 3 or round 4.
Round 3, man.
Off the top of my head. But yeah, round 3, they took Dylan Gabriel as a day 2 quarterback. So clearly, whether they want to tell you that they love Shedeur or not as much as they love Dylan Gabriel. Like
they told you exactly how they felt, essentially.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
You want to talk about some of these other quarterbacks?
Yeah, I was just going to say, should we hit the rest of the quarterbacks? So we mentioned Shedeur slid all the way to round 5. Cam Ward, obviously, to nobody's surprise, went first overall. That felt pretty much like a certainty leading up to the last little bit leading up to the draft. And then your New York Football Giants trade up for Jackson Dart, trade up from the top of round 2 to go take Dart in round 1. He's got the sweet eye black. We love it. How do we feel about Dart going round 1? And then we'll get into some of the other guys that went on day 2 and day 3.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of touched on it on our day 1 recap. I didn't necessarily want the Giants to trade up, but for what they gave up, I love it. If you're missing a 3rd round pick last year, and then they gave away their 3rd round comp pick this year, so almost the 4th. If they actually like him and they didn't just draft him because they felt like they needed to draft a quarterback, and listen, I like Jackson Dart, so I love it. I'm cool with it. I just want to make sure that they actually wanted him specifically, and if they did, then that's wheels up, and I love it, and he'll be ready to rock next year. He doesn't have to play this year. It's nice. So I love that. And then I think it's also funny, like Riley Leonard going to the Colts, who's like exactly Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones blended. It's
boy, they have a type.
Yeah, that's incredible.
They have a type in Indy.
Yeah. What about Quinn Ewers? How do you feel about that?
Our guy Quinn.
I know.
Last quarterback drafted, round 7. I wonder if that's like indicative of the medical.
Yeah.
If people are just worried about the injuries, and because man, like even with whatever questions you have, I think Quinn Ewers is better than a 7th round quarterback.
Yeah.
Better than Curtis Rourke, Cam Miller, Graham Mertz, the guys that got drafted ahead of him. So I wonder if there's some question about, how they think he can hold up long term or at the next level, or if that his body just isn't quite the same following all the injuries he's had in college.
Which is hilarious.
But I
going
was
to
shocked
Miami.
to see him. Yeah. That quarterback room of Tua, Zach Wilson, and Quinn Ewers. That is something.
Bubble wrap.
Yeah, please.
Well, not for Zach, but for everybody else.
Yeah, everyone else. But yeah, I was shocked he fell that far.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
So we mentioned Shedeur goes round 5. He was the first quarterback to get drafted on day 3. But we had a couple guys go on day 2. Said Ward and Jackson Dart went on day 1, and then Tyler Shuck at the top of the 2nd round. We had people mad when we were mocking Tyler Shuck in the 4th round to their teams. And Tyler Shuck goes top of the 2nd round. Tyler Shuck's going to play football this year.
Yes, sir.
He is playing for the Saints this year, folks. So strap in. He was the only 2nd round quarterback. And then we get the 2 3rd round guys, Jalen Milroe to the Seahawks, and the aforementioned Dylan Gabriel to the Browns. What do you think happens in Cleveland? Not to make this the Cleveland show, but who's playing quarterback? Who's under center week 1 for the Browns?
Part of me wants to say Joe Flacco, right? And they just see what happens till he throws an egregious pick or something. And then, I don't know. It's like there's a lot of people who really love Shedeur that it's just going to be really hard to quell that. But
yeah,
God, they drafted a guy ahead of him. So I don't know, man.
That's
I'm
what
shocked.
Makes the whole thing so weird.
Yeah.
You take Dylan Gabriel 2 rounds earlier.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's what an odd room. You have Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur, and then Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, and I don't know. It's a strange one.
Shout out us, though.
It's a strange one.
I know a lot of people had these quarterbacks right, but we definitely had these quarterbacks right. We talked about Shuck early, not during the college season, but we talked about him a lot. We talked about Shedeur possibly falling. We did miss on Quinn, but we knew there was medicals, and he might even have a little bit of a personality thing. I don't know. He was the first NIL guy. I'm just spitballing here. Maybe he didn't interview well either, but so I think his arm talent is way better than a 7th round pick. I'm blown away by that.
Yeah, I was shocked by that too. Day 3 was Shedeur, and then Kyle McCord goes to the Eagles.
Yeah.
Whatever. Will Howard in round 6 to the Steelers. I don't know. Will Howard might get some playing time.
I mean, where's Aaron Rodgers right now, right?
In the jungle.
Yeah. Welcome to the jungle.
Or walking around barefoot on a beach somewhere, draped in that blanket.
He's almost certainly barefoot right now, wearing one of those
Him and-
those sweaters that you get from the hippie shop. You know what I'm talking
yeah,
about?
yeah, like the poncho kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Him and Mac Hollins are somewhere just barefoot right now,
just kicking
palling around. Yeah, I don't know if Will Howard. I don't know. He's got a path there.
He certainly does.
If Rodgers decides that he's not doing it, Will Howard has a path to some notable playing time. And then we talked about the rest of the day 3 guys that did go ahead of Quinn. Should we go ahead and talk about maybe some other guys who slide or that we think were good values for their team?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Who are some names that slid a little further than expected, or you think somebody scooped really good value on?
There's a couple cornerbacks. Ravel, I think, being in the 3rd round pick, I thought that was great value for the Cowboys. Even Trey Amos as a 2nd round pick. Will Johnson, if he's
if he's healthy.
If he's healthy, that's a steal too. I also, homer, but I like Marcus Bowe in the 5th round. I think that was a great pick. He can play all 5 positions on the offensive line, or at least he's been practicing them. And then you want to talk about your guy, Royals?
Yeah, Royals goes round 4 to the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, it's tough to say it's not a great fit because it's always a great fit when it's a skill player that you like that gets plopped in with one of the best quarterbacks to do it. But I think Royals could have a nice role there for them, a nice compliment to Xavier Worthy. I wanted to call him Hollywood Brown so bad.
And Rashee Rice, yeah.
And Rashee Rice. I think the Chiefs got really good value on Royals. I was hoping he would go on day 2. I'm not totally shocked that he went on day 3, but I'm glad he didn't fall any further than that. Because round 4, it feels like he still has a shot to have a decent role. Going back to the corners, I think the Jets also got good value on Azariah Thomas.
Yes, they did.
Post Senior Bowl, he felt like a guy that could have snuck into the back end of round 1, and they take him in round 3.
I love that.
So it'd be interesting to see what their secondary does. And also, I was shocked that your guy Darius Alexander fell at the top of the 3rd round. The Giants still got him.
I didn't want to say it.
Yeah, I thought he was a round 2 lock, and that the Giants probably missed their chance at him after trading up for Dart.
Mm-hmm.
But man, he's another guy that it felt like he could have potentially snuck into the back end of round 1 if a team loved him. I was a little shocked to see him fall to the top of round 3.
He's an older prospect, so I could understand some teams not wanting him round 1, but like round 2 was like, oh man, that was
felt
shocking.
Like kind of the sweet spot for him.
Even my guy, Alec Imanor, I thought he would go higher for sure. I thought there was possibility he could sneak. That would have been like my hot take, but I thought he could sneak into round 1. I mean, obviously, nobody thought that, but.
I thought he would have been like a kind of a stone cold lock for round 2,
even
if he didn't make it into round 1. To see him fall to round 4 was kind of surprising, but I think that's great value for the Titans. I was waiting for them to, pair a guy with Cam Ward there. I think Iamaner's a good dude to do that.
And then
they bring
I
was gonna say and they bring in Cam Ward's guy Xavier Restrepo as a UDFA. So I know he ran like poop at his pro day, but I don't know, just a guy that I think is tough and can get open. And I think he's still going to be a good receiver from the slot, and probably look back and go, he shouldn't have been a UDFA. But we'll see. But yeah, there was some good value to be had. Wide receiver fell a little weird, like it was kind of normal at first, and then it felt like some guys went earlier than expected because maybe of athletic profiles, and then some of those other guys, A.O. Manor and Royals and guys like that, got pushed down the board because of it. But shout out our guy, the short king, Tej Johnson, for getting drafted.
Yeah.
7th round, but he got drafted.
You love to see it, man. And who did the Lions? They traded up for
Isaac Tesla.
They gave up 3/3 for that.
He's a guy that I thought would be like a really nice middle of day 3 target for somebody. I was surprised to see him go on day 2.
Yeah.
But big RAS guy. So the Lions love that.
Yeah, I mean the Lions, they deserve some respect in terms of their drafting. So you can't like hate it.
Yeah, and I love the beginning of their draft too. Taking Tyleek in round 1, that's a Lions pick right there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What do you want to talk about our favorite teams?
Yeah, go ahead. Who do you think? Who had one of your favorite drafts?
One of my favorite drafts. I really liked what the Cardinals did, especially early on. They addressed the transfers. They got Walter Nolan at 16. Then they got Will Johnson at 47. They got another edge rusher out of Oregon, Jordan Birch. And they just got some steady picks. Denzel Burke in the 5th round. The only thing I wish they probably would have gotten another offensive lineman a little earlier. They only gotten Hayden Connor in the 6th round. But other than that, I think they did a pretty good job. They knew what they needed. And they got it, man. What's the team that you liked? We'll talk about some more, but we'll go back and forth.
As much as it kills me to say it, the New England Patriots. I think the Pats absolutely nailed this draft, man. You take Will Campbell in the 1st round, the 4th overall pick. All right, play him at tackle this year, and if it doesn't work out, you still know you have a damn good guard. Travion Henderson in round 2. Love Henderson. I think Henderson's a great compliment to Ramondre and a real home run threat on a team that needs him. Then you take Kyle Williams, another home run threat. Get a nice receiver for Drake May there. And then they just kind of kept stacking these good value picks like through day 3. And Jared Wilson still on day 2, the center from Georgia, which was a nice pick.
Mm-hmm.
Then on day 3, you come away with Josh Farmer in round 4, the Florida State D tackle, Braden Swinson, the edge from LSU in round 5, Marcus Bryant, the Ole Miss tackle in round 7. I think the Pats stacked a really good draft. They had a decent amount of picks, and I think they filled a good amount of holes, but also got good value on a lot of picks too.
Josh Farmer,
by all accounts, I feel pretty. Yeah, I feel pretty convinced that they took Kyle Williams right before the Jets were planning on taking Kyle Williams. And I feel pretty convinced of that because of the Jets taking Arian Smith a round later. I think they pretty clearly wanted a speed profile guy in there. And if I remember correct, I want to say the Pats traded up to 69 to take Kyle Williams. I don't think they were slated right in that spot, or they ended up in that spot. I don't remember how they maneuvered there. And then I think it led to the Jets just being like, all right, well, we're going to take Thomas because he's such a value on our board. So yeah, that was the one thing about the Jets draft tied into that I didn't love. That I think they kind of maybe panicked at wide receiver a little bit after that and took Arian Smith earlier than they should have.
Well, yeah,
but yeah, Pat's draft was good.
And we talked about the Jets before we went live. I loved what they did rounds 1, 2, and 3. And then it just kind of seems like, they missed the mark on day 3. But man, for what they got in Membu out of Missouri, Mason Taylor, tight end, LSU, Azariah Thomas, Florida State in the 3rd round, those are 3 starters. I loved that. But then, it kind of fell off after that. I don't hate Malachi Moore at all in the 5th round.
No, Malachi Moore was a good pick. It just felt like they kind of misread the board, or like we said before we started recording, it felt like a situation where a new regime was relying a lot on area scouts and stuff that probably get cleaned out this summer before they put new people and new processes in place. Arian Smith to me felt like he went a couple rounds earlier than he should have. I get the speed, but my guy's got stone hands.
I think they could have got him in the 7th round.
If they could teach him how to catch.
Yeah,
I think he was like a 6th, 7th round guy. Malachi Moore, good pick. But then, the 2 Miami defenders, Kiko Mauigoa and Tyler Barron, all right, whatever. It feels like you're just betting on guys that you like the guy, you like the person, you think they can contribute on special teams. And to be fair, they need to build out depth at some of those positions. But, yeah, just felt a little disjointed between the first 2 days and then day 3. But I do love what they did at the beginning of the draft.
I got to talk about my Giants, and then I'm going to talk about another team. But real quick, I want to talk about my Giants because I thought they had a great draft. Obviously, they signed 2 quarterbacks in free agency, so they were able to pick Abdul Carter, one of the best players in this draft, depending on who you're talking to, edge out of Penn State. Then they trade up for Jackson Dart, which, some people didn't like it, but for what they gave up for that, I can't hate that. I like that process. I cannot hate that. And then
Mm-hmm.
they get Darius Alexander in the third round. We already spoke about how good of value that was. Then they went in the fourth round and picked up Cam Skattebo. I love him. I love him a lot. I think he's going to be a huge favorite in New York. And he just plays running back the way I love running backs to play. And he can catch. So him and Tracy, both able to catch.
It's a nice little duo.
Yeah, that's a nice little duo. And they got, again, Marcus Bowe, fifth round, great value. And then the last two picks were whatever. They just got Tracy guys. But I also want to talk about the Carolina Panthers real quick. I really liked what they did. I am really happy that they went wide receiver in the first round. They got McMillan. And then they went and they got a solid edge player at scouting, Texas A&M, and Princely, the edge out of Ole Miss. Those were like three rock solid picks right there. And then, they just filled some needs throughout the roster, and I don't think they reached anywhere. I think they had a really solid draft, and God, they certainly needed it.
Yeah, they're another one. I do agree. I think they had a nice draft, a nice process. It was nice to see them take Tet. Let me think of one more.
Did you see that we're not allowed to call him Tet anymore? You see that we're not allowed to call him Tet anymore?
Yeah, I know. I got to remove that from my lexicon.
Yeah.
I got to take that out. I'm too used to calling him Tet. Sorry, Tetero. I didn't mean it. I did low-key kind of like the Texans draft.
Okay.
Like, it went better than I thought it was going to. They add the whole Iowa State wide receiver core. You get Jaden Higgins in round 2 and then Jalen Noel in round 3. I think it worked out for them okay, getting Ariante Ursary in round 2. I thought maybe the tackle run was going to totally throw them off, but they're still able to come away with Ursary in round 2, which was like the last of the good startable tackles this year, in my opinion. So you get Ursary, then you get Jalen Noel, and then just a couple solid picks down the stretch where Jalen Smith, the corner from USC, I like that in round 3. Woody Marks, the running back from USC, in round 4. I like Woody Marks' depth there. Penn State safety Jalen Reed in round 6. I like that. Luke Lachey, the tight end from Iowa, in round 7. Like, it's a dart throw, and if he can stay healthy, it's something maybe. But I like taking the shot there in round 7. So for trading out and still coming away with 2 really good wide receivers that we like, Higgins and Noel, and then still getting Ariante Ursary in round 2, I think that went pretty well for them.
Yeah, I think the board in the first round kind of screwed them with the tackles that they wanted. I don't know if they were willing to risk a first round Justin Simmons when they need a starter. But my only qualm with them is I wish they would have loaded up on offensive linemen a little bit more. But you got to play the board the way it falls, and
that's fair.
It seems like the board didn't fall that way for them. But man, that's pretty much it, right? We covered a bunch. I think eventually we'll probably try to cover every team, right?
Yeah, we'll try and dive into all these teams in a little further detail, maybe division by division. So, like we said at the top, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, subscribed on your podcast providers. We'll get into all these teams picks a little more in depth when we don't have to try and hit everybody in just one episode. And then rookie camps will be going on. We'll have QB battles to monitor, UDFAs who might make teams' rosters. Plenty of stuff that we're going to dive into. So make sure that you're locked in here on the Gridiron Drive YouTube channel and on the podcast feeds. And we will be back next week diving into it a little bit deeper.
Keep the drive alive. Don't forget to like and subscribe.